All right. Welcome, everybody, to Module 1. I can tell you that it's the early days of day 1, and I'm going to read for you verbatim which organization we are all going to be a part of. We're all a part of siberX, a national grocery retailer based in Vancouver. They have been hit by a sudden systems outage. Early reports from all of their stores, not just in the BC area, but across multiple regions, are indicating that their point of sale terminals are offline. Offline, not working, I don't know. We'll figure that out very soon. This issue is about to spread, and unfortunately, it has just spread. We have some live coverage coming in from the news. I'm going to ask all of you to tune in live at this moment.
Good morning. This is Roshan Khan with ODTN News, bringing you breaking developments from Canada's East Coast. Across the Maritimes, shoppers arrived at siberX locations this morning to find locked doors, dark storefronts, and no clear explanation. ODTN News has managed to get an insider from siberX to give us some information on the issue. While unable to share specific details, they confirm that a technical issue is preventing stores from opening or processing any sales. For customers, that means delays in picking up essentials like groceries, and in some smaller towns, long drives to the next available store. We are starting to see a growing frustration, and we will continue to try and get to the bottom of this. As of right now, the company has not released a statement beyond acknowledging the outage. What began as local inconvenience now appears to be a region-wide disruption, and questions are mounting about when services will return. I'm Roshan Khan. This is ODTN News. Please follow along for further updates on this story.
All right, with that, we're beginning to hear that this is the early stages of some sort of an outage. Alex, I'm always of the opinion that we need to think outside the box, but in this situation, I think we've lost the box completely. This is something that we knew could have happened. We're 6 months in, and an incident has taken place. Can you help us all understand what have we walked into here? What is CyberX? What is this architecture? Get us started, Alex.
Thank you, Ali. So CyberX went through a digital transformation recently. This was to combine inventory systems with online retail as well as physical stores. This was a big push by the CEO, but as you can imagine, big projects do have challenges. So they have been delayed by 6 months. This is both affecting some stability of the retail operations, as well as the wholesale operations and distribution that CyberX also supports. So with this incident, this is sort of a part and parcel of some of the other headaches that they've had throughout the rollout of this migration to the next generation point of sales 2000 servers and endpoints. So right now, the East Coast is opening up, or trying to, and failing, and they're looking at it right now, trying to investigate some root causes and get a remediation path.
Now, Shreya, I know you're playing within the SOC. I'm going to come to you very soon, but not quite yet. I know that you're gathering some information as well, so I will ask you to start walking me through what you're finding very, very shortly. But that said, we need to start moving towards. Nothing has been declared. There's an outage of some sort. Services are disrupted. No security incident yet. But are there any steps you recommend we take right now?
Yeah, definitely. First thing I want to do is I want to identify what logs are available to me, what visibility do we have into the point of sale system. Ideally, we would have the logs being loaded into a SIM, potentially even an EDR agent that's been deployed to the point of sale systems. Also want to be looking at any sort of late patches that maybe have occurred that might have caused the outage. Also, we want to identify anything from the point of sale vendor as well. We want to reach out to them. Are they having any other issues? Maybe even potentially look at if we have other retail establishments that we maybe have an ISAC with, we can share intelligence with them. Are they experiencing any of these similar issues as well? That's what I would start with. I would try to get as much visibility as quickly as possible, especially if we don't have any sort of alerts or anything like that in our SOC right now, right? We don't know what's going on, but we do want to make sure we get as much visibility as possible.
Fair enough, and I will advise all of the advisors here that if at any point of time you want to chime in, feel free to do so. Just to set the tone, I'm going to come to you, Mark, based on what you've heard so far. Anything that pops up to you that we need to start looking into as we prepare the logs?
Yeah, I mean, I know we just talked about talking to the SOC and looking at EDR logs or what's coming out of our SIM, but really at this point, this is as much an IT outage as anything else. Everything's on the table, as I said, coming in here. So it is entirely possible that we've got a SOC that's looking at the wide scope, but if we don't, we need to be assembling our teams that are looking at the big picture, right? So this is an all hands on deck type of incident. Everyone's going to have a role to play. I would be looking at having some sort of technical bridge, gathering the experts that are aware of some of this recent technical change that's been going on. We've had 6 months of change. So, was there a recent change even on the table that happened overnight that we're not aware of? Double checking on that side of it. Are we looking at the entire end-to-end path? Do we have a good understanding of how this new network actually works? I'll leave it here.
Fair enough. Alex, if I can turn to you, and then we'll start to look at some initial logs that are coming in. Alex, from your perspective right now, in terms of this attack or this incident that seems to be unfolding, I say attack, but who knows what it is, what has actually gone down at this point?
Well, from the security operations team's perspective, this is definitely not an attack, and we're not going to treat it as such. We'll work with our network operations and business operations teams to be starting to understand, but basically, what we are seeing is that at stores, we are seeing our point of sales not being responsive to the users. And now we're starting to do some network diagnostics to understand what is going on. This could be related to the AWS outage. We are investigating if we are reliant on that region. And again, just last month we did have a false alarm that did trigger the incident response plan. So we're going to be a bit gun shy of jumping to conclusions on that. But yeah, that's what we're seeing right now. We are also going to start looking at the inventory system as well as the point of sales management server to start understanding, are those affected too, or is it still regional?
All right, Vivek, I see you've been sending us some messages as well. Do you want to chime in, please? Do your best, Vivek. You were the board advisor that took that special cybersecurity course at SFU, so we expect you to have all the answers.
From a board perspective, I'll start there. We're interested to know who's on deck, who's providing the update and when, specifically the CEO and the CTO. Obviously, board members are hearing things through the news and do want a clarification because sometimes the news reporters don't get things technically correct. When they say point of sale is down, is it the cash register or is it the PIN pad? Because those are two very different directions. And has anyone called, our competitors to see if they're impacted or not? And,
okay.
And if they need help from the board to reach out, let us know. But it's obviously still early on, and the board is just wanting to make sure that we have people on deck and that an update is coming.
All right, so the board has given us some interesting feedback and discussions. To the SOC team, I believe you've got some information that you would like to share with us. So I'm going to turn it over to you to walk us through what you're seeing on your end at this point. And if you can share it as well, that would be great.
Absolutely, Ari. SOC has received some reports And from our side, we are still trying to get a clear picture. The problem is data coming is incomplete. We are not able to align the timelines. The POS terminals are still on legacy agents. That means many of them are not even sending data back to the main dashboards. We have a big problem over here going on, collecting and just putting a proper visibility.
But I'm trying to understand, you have the map on the screen right now. I get it, you're all very fancy with your logs, but what am I looking at over here?
No, what we are seeing right now are the clusters dropping offline one after the other. What started as a very small reboot or a loop kind of a structure has cascaded into a very large-scale operation at the moment. Hundreds of POS devices are seeming to be offline. The data we are receiving is still incomplete. The timelines don't manage. The data and timestamps don't align properly. What's happening is stores cannot open. The transactions are not reconciled properly here. And even though these systems are selling $3 coffees at the end of the day, we are still not getting a bigger picture. There's still a primary revenue stream we are looking at, and as a big loss.
I am going to ask to see a lot more, but Alex, is there anything that you want to add based on the initial reports that we're seeing here?
Well, it does look like it's in our core as well. It's not just at the edge retail sites, if it is hitting our data center and the inventory systems. So I think we're going to need to get IT teams to start focusing both locally and trying to identify what is going on with the point of sale systems, as well as the actual back end. And I did see a message about like trying to understand what is actually impacted at the stores. Preliminary reports, what we're seeing on the WhatsApp group of the IT team, is that the POS NG2000s are not responding to any user interaction. It does have PIN pad built into it, and also the new facial recognition purchasing solution that we had started to integrate there. So that is affected.
Okay, clearly we have gone wild with AI, and I will tell you this, that as I set the context here, there was a lot of push from the CEO, and probably if it's possible right now, Dragna, if I can come to you, and maybe also go to Michael, who's playing the role of, or rather it's Matthew playing the role of a CFO. Dragna, from your perspective, based on what you've seen so far, do we need to state anything has happened so far? Is it too early? What are you looking for at this point of time so that the SOC team can go and pick those things up?
So what I think we need to do is just clarify that we can't open up as a cash business. Alex, I don't know if between our NT2000s and our facial recognition, can we still take cash? Because some of our stores back east and in smaller communities do operate, our customers operate with cash only.
I do believe that we have cut over from the traditional cash system, and this is going to be something that we're going to have to test, and we'll have to talk to operations that whether they can operate without the systems. Certainly, we did have a lot of front of house staff, but they were laid off when we started migrating to these more modern solutions for our customers. Sorry?
The self-checkouts?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have to, and Ali, I think that's something we need to coordinate with operations to see, how can we operate in a degraded state, if we can at this point.
I would advise that. Plus, I would also, I know that our stores have emergency backup offline PIN pads that back in the day we used to have in case we had outages that were on a different, that were segmented, and you just put in the amount that you need to pay, check if dust those off. I know that's not your job, but we do need
Let's investigate that. Operations, do you have a comment?
Just before we moving to cash operations, the reconciliation of that once the system comes back online will be significant. So I'd rather hold off on moving to legacy payments until we have a better scope of the duration of the outage. If we're back in 45 minutes, I don't want to have people having to reconcile the cash operations. So until we have more significant timelines in place, I'd rather hold off on making that switch. The other comment I would make is outside of the technical components, I'd really like to see an organized communication strategy both for internal staff as well as any distributors or integrated partners. We're starting to field a significant number of questions both internally as well as the partner operations as well.
All right, Rob, please chime in, Captain CISO.
Sure. So first of all, I'll say that this is a very realistic scenario, and I'm glad it's just a scenario today. This is enough to start to get your heart going for sure, because that early phases, a lot of things are really still unknown. And the reality is that first initial few hours of triage are critical. And so to Vivek's point and others, if work has been done properly, there's a whole lot of answers that are already determined. Everything from communications with the board to understanding who's on first, which is critical. Do we understand, is this something that's happened in the past? People called out super, super important steps, like determining, has this happened before? Do we have any inkling of what's changed? Those are critical questions to answer. But the more that's written down in a plan so that you can quickly grab that plan at that first indication of what could this be, the better. That way there really is fast action and you don't have to ask questions about what are the roles and who's looking into what. So hopefully that started to execute, and the more we find out, the better it is for the long-term success.
All right, compliance has walked into the room. Melina, over to you.
So I've got a couple of questions for you, Alex. We're mentioning that the POS systems are down. Are there other, you had mentioned the back ends as well. So from a compliance standpoint, I'm looking at what data are we going to start looking at having to consider. We're also across the organization here, I want to put a little bit of a caveat on what we're saying outside to our vendors, to our merchants, to anybody else, is that we need to make sure that we're aligned on the message and we're not giving any false information outside. Other than that, I've also, as we've preliminary invoked some external counsel, so please keep in mind that any further communications that we're having internally involves the external counsel, because that will at least keep us covered under legal privilege, so that we're, if anything comes up moving forward, we're, as an organization, at least a little bit more protected. Georgiana?
Do you think we should let our insurance know? Because we do have business outage insurance, right?
I definitely think that that should be implemented now. Most likely we'll be able to also pull from that our external breach coach, as well as any technical support, Alex, if you're needing it. We can try to get somebody to come in. Because POS has been impacted, we need to get an idea of what that impact looks like, because that can, because of the financial information, we also have to be cautious on how we're treating those POS devices. We need to make sure that we're grabbing that information in a forensic manner, so that if there is any other regulatory investigations, we're going to be able to be protected as an organization.
We are working right now with operations, and again, SOC is not seeing any indicators of compromise at this point. We're having a lot of up-down issues where, you know, the Christmas tree is starting to light up. And we are seeing our critical core systems, the ERP, inventory system, and various databases are stopping responding. And we're also getting reports from our stores that they're having issues. So local IT teams on the East Coast are trying to address them. And the core IT team is waking up, because it is quite early in the morning right now for Vancouver, where the core IT team is located, to start doing troubleshooting. So they're having to come into the office. So there's some delays there as well.
Thanks for that. And yes, I know that Christmas comes after Diwali, but I didn't know it would come this early. Thanks, Alex, Melina, Ragnar, for your perspective. I know we had commentary from TELUS. Matthew, so TELUS, go ahead.
Thanks again. So again, I know we've scrambled the teams. We're starting to look at weak signs. So one of those weak signs that I'd like to call on and look into a little deeper would be any of our threat intel partners that we're working with. Either we're providing that information ourselves through direct platforms, or we're engaging potentially an outside firm that we work with for those weak signs, right? So again, it could be anything. So if we're looking at a potential cyber component, are we present in terms of a dark web posting that we just don't know about yet? It's still early in the morning.
It is very early in the morning, but I can tell you in later modules something is going to be revealed in that sense. But thank you for that. I know you had a comment. Please chime right in.
Yeah, thank you. From a legal perspective and from a finance perspective, I want to reiterate that this is an operational outage so far, right? And we are in the middle of a digital transformation. We have vendors that we should be engaging. We have project teams we should be engaging. And as a customer-facing, potentially reportable PII and financial system impact, we should have communications ready, right? And that, I think, is my concern at this point, is getting the right people involved, what's happening in our non-prod, lower-level environments, what's working, what's not, what's the role of the vendor, and let's get some communication out to staff, especially since we have a earnings report coming up. We want to make sure our communication out to the street and to staff is consistent and not reactionary.
Hardeep, before I go to you, I know that from a cyber advisory perspective, we've just heard from a finance standpoint from Matthew what we need to be considering, especially with the earnings report coming up. My screen is going to pop up very shortly because I do want everyone's attention to this. This is a chat ongoing with our current IT folks, and Hardeep, I think this will be of interest to you. There's quite a few comments that have come in online. I'll try to weave them in. But this chat is an example of some stuff that's going on within our IT team. Amanda and a member of our IT team are chatting, and they go, "Hey, is everything okay? Heard your frustration in that meeting." And said, "Yep, the POS is giving us a huge headache. We should have stayed internal. The company is towards doom, LOL. Nobody listens until it's too late." And Amanda says, "Tell me about it. My brain has already left the chat." There seems to be a lot of, and Alex, maybe later on you can add some light to this, there seems to have been a lot of opposition to the vendor that we have gone with our POS. I'd like to get some information on that, but Hardeep, I'll turn it over to you since you wanted to chime in. Go ahead.
I think one of the things, I know we were looking at the logs and looking at, I think the bigger picture is we still don't know if it's just a cyber incident. So a couple of aspects that I was going to suggest is like even going back and looking at like if any changes were made within the last like 24 to 48 hours that could have caused this issue. I think you also mentioned the vendor. I think engaging that vendor and getting them on the bridge to kind of help us is definitely highly recommended. And then the last piece was, I think a number of us talked about like messaging. I feel like even putting out a holding message, right? Just basically saying we're investigating internally to kind of reduce panic will kind of give the teams a little bit more time.
James, can I bring you into this right now? And then maybe Michael. James, you're advising us from a security perspective alongside folks like Hardeep. We've invested in all of these resources, and now we're in this situation. James, can I ask you, because Michael's playing the role of an incident response lead, is there anything that you want his team to activate at this point, or are we still waiting for more information?
Yeah, thanks. I think we're still waiting for more information. I haven't seen any indication that this is a cyber incident yet, but I would hope that the incident response team is shadowing the IT team and giving a little bit of kind of guidance around some of the actions that we might be taking. But at this point, I think it's solely an operational issue, and we still have to keep moving towards getting the systems back up and running.
Fair enough. Michael, anything that you'd like to add?
No, at this point, as has been said, I mean, this is an IT or operational outage. In the event that it becomes something else, my team is very interested in collecting information, logging things, keeping data, and keeping evidence, chain of evidence, and sort of that sort of thing. But at this point, no, this is not a cyber incident that we can tell.
Okay. Alex, I want to turn to you. There's a lot of push right now that we need more information about this POS environment, the organization that we've obtained this product from. I want to hear from you, and then from a CIO's perspective, any concerns that are dropping in. Alex, back to you.
CyberX was a little bit behind on the technology for several years. And the new CEO that came in said he wanted to really change things up, really replicate a modern national brand that really has the point of sales talking directly to the inventory system, interacts with distribution, and I think there's even some robots in there too, in the warehouses. And AI was in there, but internally at the company, there has been speculation that the CEO sort of brought in his pal's company, and this project has had a lot of pushback internally because it is replacing jobs with computers. And while some of these technologies are making the retail experience for the client much better, particularly the face recognition, where they don't even have to pull out a credit card anymore, it has been fraught with challenges. And this is, again, like this outage is we've had more, various outages in the past with trying to get this cut over. But we've been pretty aggressive with rolling it out, really getting rid of any of the legacy technologies to, really give ourselves a lack of a backup plan. And that is actually being reflected on the company's stock price, because this project is well behind schedule and is looking to be more and more like a boondoggle. But that said, we are having to move forward because this is the technology we have, and with our reduced staffing, it is technology we need.
Rob, as the CIO, who's enjoying a sip of water at this moment, because I know you're going to need more of it, we're hearing about a lot of this dissatisfaction with this technology stack that we moved ahead with. From your perspective, we're hearing online as well, folks saying, can we go to cash for a period of time until we resolve? Is that possible? Is it, from your perspective, is it something that, or maybe it's possible, but not something we want to do? Any guidance that you can provide right now?
Yeah, this is my first one. How competent do you want me to be? Like,
I want
like, do you want me to be really competent or not competent?
So you're the individual who has walked in probably about 2 weeks ago. You're still trying to figure out where the washrooms are at.
Okay.
And you want to play that way.
Okay, cool. All right. So I think one of the most important things, like, to me, it's like a Sev 1, all hands on deck. And I'm talking to my business partners to understand and getting good comms to make sure everyone's aligned with what's going on. And probably one of the most important things for me is, are we bringing in all the resources we need to solve this problem? So are we looking at our external partners? Are we looking at all the different vendors? What does it take? And at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm counting, the materiality clock. Like, the damage is being done. When am I going to have to take this to, the board and everyone else to understand kind of what that impact will be from, as we're a public company. So we want to make sure that we understand the implications there.
All right, we are getting this question repeatedly on the chat, so I'm going to bring this up, and unfortunately, Alex, I'm going to have to bring you back into the equation again, is with the vendor that we have, and I'm trying to get in touch with them as well. Are you aware of what the SLAs are in terms of response time? Because I haven't heard anything yet.
They are based on the West Coast, so we are waiting for them to wake up. They do have a 1-800 number that goes to a call center, so we have escalated internally there. I would imagine there are some good SLAs, but that is definitely outside of my pay grade.
All right, SOC team, I know that you're beginning to get some information. I will come to you very shortly, but if my screen can pop up round about now, I really want everyone's attention to this. Again, Alex, you never mentioned this individual, Anthony, who is the East Coast IT lead. And I'll read out the email verbatim for everybody so that you can follow along. This is an email from Anthony that has been sent to a whole bunch of us, some of us who barely can understand what he's talking about. Anthony says, we started re-imaging the POS terminals at the Moncton and Halifax stores overnight using a standard backup image from last week's. Systems booted up fine at first, but about an hour later, they crashed again. We've rechecked network configs and even swapped a few routers, thinking it was a connectivity glitch. Same result. Do we have confirmation that the image on the recovery server is clean? Or could this be something deeper in the update process? We're running low on clean devices and staff are starting to panic on site. Alex?
Well, I'm a little concerned that the IT team on site is making decisions like this. I don't think that's been coordinated with our internal operations team. I guess that's just another case of YOLO IT. So I think we do need to pause back, but one indicator there that was interesting was that it did come up and started working, but then went down again afterwards. So I would like to start looking at some logs of what happened to that fresh system. And between when it came up and when it went down, and see if there's any threads we can pull there.
All right, well, on that thread of YOLO IT, Vivek, I'm going to come back to you. I can tell you that another item that has been flagged is even in that news report, it seems that information is also getting out to the media when we haven't stated anything about this. The concern is who's speaking for the organization at this point. Anything from the advisory's perspective that you'd like to add for us to be attentive to?
Yeah, we need to make sure there is actually an incident commander on this operational event, and we still have not received a board update. So that's number one. Number two, the key vendor is not on site or at the table. That is a major failure. So we need to have the CEO of that vendor or our executive contact pulled in. This is an operational incident. I can tell you, from my experience as a board member working in other retail companies, going full cash is not an option. Stores would rather shut down than that. So, you're really going to be hard pressed, except in small communities, to be able to pull that off. But I think right now is if we can clarify who's running this and provide an update to the board in terms of the timelines that you're expecting to hear back. I think there should be some drafted templates about what you can say to the press about an operational incident. Again, I like hearing what you said about it's not cyber yet, so we shouldn't be invoking any cyber hints or confusions. It's probably also a good time to tell the staff and store managers that we have an incident, whether their store is impacted or not, operational incident we're working on, just so they don't fill in the blanks. And I just want one clarification. So the stores are impacted in the Maritime. We're in BC.
Yep.
The vendor's in BC. So really, it's a question of as time moves across, stores will be opening across the coast. So this is like an early warning indicator, potentially, because Maritime's the first stores that usually get hit because they open first, right? So this could quickly become, a wide-scale issue if we don't get on top of this maritime issue. So, the BCP plans should be on standby. The rollback plan should be on standby. And, if we can get to the point of a leader giving us a timeline for an update, I think that we could have the board on standby as well if this gets worse. But at this point, they're just expecting a memo.
What do you know? A board advisor who knows the company that he's representing in and out.
Ali, if I can just add one more thing.
Yeah, please go ahead.
We're getting, from a business perspective, we're getting a lot of calls to our call center, who also opens at 5 a.m., and customers that are standing in front of stores are wondering what's happening, and our customer care team, our call center, doesn't know. So they're giving all sorts of information, and then they're trying to call the store, which is not picking up. So there's a lot of confusion out there. So I think those are some of the contacts that are speaking to customers who might be part of the media or just posting social media.
Fair enough. Yeah, I also see some Teams chatter where some folks are saying, yeah, I'm just pretending to say, oh, I can't hear you clearly, and then they're cutting the line. So that's been our BCP at this point of time. Our saviors at the SOC, I believe you have some detrimental news to share with us, so I'll give you the stage to let out the fireworks.
Absolutely. Sorry, we have finally pulled the logs from several of the affected point-of-sale systems. And talking about the indicators of compromise, the picture is very clear. The role of SOC is to ensure and classify if this is an actual cyber incident or not. While we work along with the operations team, here are a couple of logs which I would like all of your attention to be at. What you're looking here are the device-level logs from Halifax, Nova Scotia division. Each entry represents endpoints communicating with the management server. At first glance, it looks routine. Updates initiated, packages installed, systems rebooted, but the deeper we look, the more inconsistencies start to appear. Specifically, if you look at this one line, the package signature verification failed, proceeding due to override flag. Now, in my past 10 years of experience working here at SOC, I've never seen an override flag in production. It's something rare. It's rarer than a phoenix and a unicorn altogether. The logic is the device still accepted and installed this binary, which is again obnoxious. Moments later, we see checksum mismatch detected.
All right, hold on. I get it, it's obnoxious, and I get it that you're going at these logs and piecing them apart, but these things, shouldn't have they caused alerts? Why are you bringing it now? Shouldn't this have been something you had earlier for us?
They did. These alerts were present, but we were still waiting for the confirmation whether this was actual false positive or not. As Rob indicated, it's quite important whether to ensure that what you're looking at is real and not spread any kind of rumors over here, just to make sure that the board stays in the right direction.
I also have to add some context. We collect about 1.5 billion logs per day. So, the SOC is sifting through this, and again, we do believe it's an IT operational issue. this digital transformation has gone sideways week after week, but we are starting to look through the logs and found a few gems.
Fair enough. Ken, Lima Charlie, do you want to chime in very quickly, and then I'll go over from the TELUS perspective? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Just kind of to start off, I find the stock's lack of logs disturbing. This is especially when we talk about a lot of the incidents that we've seen in the news, from Kaseya to Target, right? The service provider was sort of the weak point, right? And we're working with a service provider here that's not answering their phone, that doesn't have 24/7 monitoring. It sounds like they don't have their own SOC, so this is a concern. And then we look at these logs here that we can see that there is obviously some issues with the verification. And this might actually kind of fall into Melina's realm as well when we start to talk about compliance when we're dealing with PCI. But at least we do have some visibility here. Yeah, I think we should have had some of these logs a lot earlier. We should have been able to identify that this is more likely a security incident than an IT outage.
Todd, I'm going to come back to you next. Tell us from your side.
Yeah, thanks. So, I mean, what we're seeing here is our first breadcrumb. And I think it's really, really important we start doubling down on it. To your point, maybe we're trending towards a cyber incident. We don't want to jump on that quite yet, but and pull that ripcord where we change the whole dynamic. But it's definitely looking like that. I think we need to get the right teams involved that are looking at how this package mechanism works. I don't know if this is entirely in our teams or if we have to engage the vendor to understand how this works. But this is that first week sign that we've got to double down on and start looking into a little closer.
I take that, and again, security team, if you want to chime in. Todd, I do want to come to you, and then Rob, I'll come to you as well. If I can have you unmute your mic. Thank you so much. Team TELUS. Todd, from your perspective right now, hearing what you're hearing, we brought you into this war room. Nothing has been said to staff, especially frontline. Do we need to get a message out right now? Do we have the processes in place? Todd, your perspective, you're leading our operations. What do we do at this point?
I think there needs to be some type of consistent message. It's been noted by others that there needs to be a hold place message of this is under investigation, there's no indication of data loss or PII compromise. From my perspective, based on the logs here, more on the technical side, I'm deeply concerned by the authentication checksum failure on the patch. But we're looking to communicate with the partner vendors and determine if that is something on their side or if that is a normal standard operation for the platform, I suppose. But from a communication standpoint, there absolutely needs to be consistent messaging to customers, vendors, and everyone involved that is not alarming and gives us a bit more breathing space to do further investigation and determine the root cause.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going to add just one thing. The internal communications, I would really like that to be run through the legal and compliance team, just so that we're making sure that we're not putting out any statement that we may have to retract later.
Okay. I know that CISO, you wanted to chime in. I have some questions for the CFO, and I think the board also has remained alert on this. Clearly, this is the only board that they're a part of. They're really on top of this scenario. Rob, please go ahead.
Well, so it's certainly my hope that the organization did a great tabletop with siberX a few months back. And I don't know for sure, but that might have happened. But one of the takeaways would have been there's a very clear RACI that's starting to kick in, and you see people divide into their roles. Vivek and others have started to ask good questions, and hopefully there's groups that are starting to splinter out even at this early stage. And it was mentioned, now we are starting to get an inkling clearly. So the security team would bunker down, and a portion of that bunkering down is to double click on what we think is germane to the issue. But part of that, an important element, is other groups take ownership of business process as well. So communications up to the board, the CFO, legal, they all have plans in place well in advance of this, hopefully, and they should be starting to think, even at this early stage, what's involved, including things like communications, because those are critical. But having all of that in place and kicked off at the right time means that we can now turn our focus on the security side to not those other elements necessarily, because hopefully they're being addressed, but really start to focus on, we think we see something. Let's engage every resource at our disposal to start to go after that as quickly as possible.
Noted. Vivek, please chime in.
Yeah, no, I still have some questions that have not been answered. And now I'm starting to get upset because the board is getting very anxious. Did we put the wrong person in the CEO's seat? Has he have the wrong people running the show? Question one, are any other of our competitors impacted? Right? Question two, where is the vendor that's involved on this? When are they showing up? Right? Just want to get some of those basic things going. You should have deployed people to visit other stores or call your friends and figure out, is it just us? And we still don't have that question. I think that's going to be very germane to the next press release. You know, is it us? Is it just us, or is it wider?
Fair enough. Alex, there's a question that's also coming to you, and I think if you want to respond to the board, then you can. But another question that's coming online is, Alex, you mentioned you're running out of clean install opportunities. So if you can provide the board with an update and also explain that comment that you made earlier, the online audience would like to know.
Well, that's a lot of questions. What we do know is that we are reaching out to our escalation contact, again, because it's still early mornings on the West Coast. The managed service providers' account management is probably just waking up, having their first coffee. So right now, we are trying to escalate on that. The CEO is, I think, on vacation right now. Is that correct?
Yes, because why not?
Classic, classic. And Vivek, what was the other question? Oh, competitors. We don't know that yet. You know, that is something that we should probably keep an eye on public news.
Unacceptable. You should have sent people to the stores. It's unacceptable.
Our stores or competitors?
Both.
All right, well, I think operations, we can probably task somebody with walking across the street.
Retail cyber, is that regular practice, or is this a board advisor smoking something expired?
This board advisor is very hands-on. Kudos to him, but maybe give the operations team some breathing room. But yeah, no, I definitely think we should walk across the street. I think we should also call some of our retail friends that we have various working groups with. I know our legal team has a working group, our security team has a working group, so see what's happening in the other retailers. So definitely some good advice.
Fair enough. I also want to throw in a conversation that's happening. So we did send a couple of staff members out, and from one of our stores, and it'll pop up on the screen. I got a text right now from Jamie, who actually operates one of our stores, has also been in touch. I can confirm that competitors are not down at this point. We do have some friendlies, and we've had some discussions, but this text message is really catching my attention. As you can see, I'm on a US-based phone, and Jamie has said, hey, you might be busy, I tried to call. Yes, I'm at ODTN. I'm losing my mind, my inventories are not matching up. We sold goods that were $20 for $2 accidentally. What is going on? Please text the dispatch truckers not to follow through with orders, looks like phantom inventory. I replied, funny you say that, deep thoughts in progress. CFO, I'm very concerned at this point because now we have certain stores that are telling us that, guess what, we're just doing some back-end math and they're down as well. They're looking at some of their reports, and it looks like previously, maybe a couple of days ago, things that were supposed to sell for $20 sold for $2. And they cannot even match inventory at this point.
That is concerning, absolutely. And it's not clear to me right now the extent of this outage or incident. We've talked a lot about point of sale systems. We've talked about some of the upstream servers rebooting, but I need a status report of what's actually impacted. There's also not been clear what's changed. We asked the question, but we didn't receive a response. There was a comment about rollback to a week ago. Is that meaningful? What's changed in the last week? We need to decide as an organization if we're switching from an incident, operational incident, to a cyber incident. and initiating our incident response plans and communication. That has implications for my team, as it does for compliance in terms of materiality and disclosure statements. But we need to know right now the extent of our impact. So I would call my financial team to start doing reconciliation, same with inventory. But are those systems up? Can I actually ask them to do that work?
Fair enough. I appreciate all of that. Alex, were you going to chime in, or go ahead?
I did get on the horn with the MSP's IT ops team. They do have skeleton crew overnight. They said everything's good. They did also mention that there's been no patching or firmware updates in the last 7 days, but it's like, I think 2 people working overnight. So I've asked them to escalate to get a little bit more confirmation. But that does concern me because we have seen logs of patches being pushed on these endpoints. And as Trey alluded to, there was a bypass on a signature verification, which is just something we don't do in production anymore.
Do you want to chime in? Yes, Sock, please tag team with your superhero Alex.
One thing over here to notice is, specifically speaking, when it comes to the MSP, the issue is we have not seen a blazing issue of logs which comes in the direction of, hey, this is more of a trial and error. I didn't see people trying to attempt different variations of it. This seems to be deliberate. Someone seems to know exactly what they are doing, how to bypass the system. They know how to validate these systems as well. And while these terminals that process nothing more than the non-existent $3 coffees, the cascading failure is critical for the company. And at this point in particular, I would really like to focus upon the pattern which tells me there is something internal going on. I would like to get the board's attention in that direction from the SOC perspective.
Fair enough. I saw there was, Alex, you mentioned Rob wanted to make a comment. Rob, I'll go to you and then Todd over. Rob, please.
Yeah, sure. As a CIO, and I'm getting more and more data points about this being a potential security incident, I would be asking the question of, should we flip over to a security, start thinking about it from a privilege perspective and start running everything through privilege as we get more and more data. So I'm kind of looking at CISO and everyone else and say, what's the point of where we flip that switch on to ensure that everything we do can be protected?
Fair enough. Todd, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I'm just curious about the operating system that the POS runs on and whether or not that's in scope for the patching in the MSP. Interestingly, if it's a proprietary system, then probably out of scope. So I'd love some clarity on back-end system platforms and like where those patches are supposed to be deployed by whom.
Windows operating system with 2 letters at the end for the version.
This inspires a great deal of confidence. Alex, I also believe that you wanted to get some perspective from our folks at TELUS as well as Lima Charlie. Alex, I heard you had some questions for them. Do you want to ask them now, and then I can go ahead and also get some updates from the field? Alex?
All right, so what are some of the challenges that organizations face when we jump to conclusions a lot of times for thinking it's a cyber incident, particularly when we're at a tabletop exercise. But what are some of those challenges of actually getting to that point of declaring and then initiating the actual plans? We'll go with TELUS first.
Yeah, I realize we're playing out in kind of real time, if you will. I would like to say that the concept of knowing so quickly is likely not the case, right? You're trying to pull together a lot of information. You may have some inkling, but attribution, trying to figure out, is this really cyber or is this really an IT? And we've seen that play out, on grand scale many times, many companies, and you just can't jump soon, right? You've gotta have that strong attribution. Maybe internally you've got to follow that path. You're building those teams that are saying, okay, there's something going on. Let's double down, get into it, but you really can't. You can't walk it back either, and it starts that rumor mill that you will have a hard time fighting, and it becomes fact.
And historically speaking, security operations team are always the chicken little, so they're generally gun shy with raising the flag if there aren't the smoking gun. Now, Ken, over to you on the technical piece. What are some of the things that would make you comfortable declaring and pulling out that IRP?
I don't think anyone's really comfortable pulling out the IRP. Yeah, but I think, again, it's always going to come down to those logs. And I think there's the technical side of it, but I think the communication is going to be critically important. It's always interesting when we have these conversations. It's like IT and security, and they're like separate groups, right? And I think what we're trying to determine here, is this a technical failure? Is it a human issue? Or is it actually a malicious actor that's in the environment? And from here, it kind of looks like it's a combination of a lot of these different components that are all going into this. We have the big push. We have a POS vendor. We talk about competitors, but we don't know if those POS vendors are using, or sorry, if those competitors are using the same POS system. Like how many other customers does this POS system have, things like that. So there's a lot of questions I think that even the board could be asking to be helping with some of these types of scenarios. And it's not always going to be technical, right? There's not always going to be the smoking gun that's going to be in the logs. Oftentimes you have to do some additional investigations. Here we have a POS system where we don't actually have a lot of verbose logging. We maybe want to look at the payment gateway systems, the patching logs, things like that, approach it more from a black box perspective. What other things are those devices communicating with? You'd mentioned that there's database systems, inventory systems, and those are all tied in with this one particular vendor. So you start to see it's not necessarily a smoking gun, but we do have some evidence and some indicators that we're guiding in that direction.
Fair enough. We have about 7 minutes to go, and I will invite the audience, if you have any thoughts, questions, now is probably a good time to chime in. If I don't see you behind me, you can just call it out, and I'll try to get to you. Or maybe Alex, you can tell me if there's somebody behind me that has a question. We have I'll take about 6 minutes, take us through to the end here. Todd, you want to go ahead, and then Rob, please.
Just quickly to build on the point of lack of clarity, I think it's really interesting that there are those logs with lack of a checksum. There's some type of authentication override, but because we've seen indication of there being some cowboy IT and people just sort of doing some things in order to troubleshoot along the way, I think it muddies the situation, which sort of speaks to the standard response in these situations is don't touch anything, right? You shouldn't actually try to remediate something until there's direction around that. And I think that's, again, kind of goes to that standard communication of what is our approach, what should we change, how are we impacting the forensics of the information that we have right now.
Rob?
Well, I would just add to that, and that we've asked the good questions, which were always the tough ones about, do we declare this an incident? What is the impact? Are we going to talk to all of these folks? And I agree completely with the TELUS assertion that in reality, it takes a while just to really determine and get comfortable where you are. That being said, all of those plans shouldn't be random. You should have a set of criteria around what tips this from being, oh, is it or isn't it? We should have some conversations about legal privilege. That is not a random event. That's planned out now. That would have been done months in advance, and then it gets invoked all of a sudden with the right criteria. Communications to employees. So really, an incident commander and others have been called out. They should have these set of criteria for all sorts of different things that are going to happen, security and non-security. Because certainly, at some point, we'll probably look like we're going to go down the path of a very specific and serious security incident. But the fact is, it's a business outage, right? Whatever is causing this, it's causing dramatic impact to the business. So everybody's involved, and there's a good chance there's a business response as well that's overriding all of this.
Fair enough. I think there's some more details that's coming in. Hardeep, before I go to you, and again, we have only 5 minutes. Gentleman at the back, you can unmute and you can go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So one of the questions I would have, I guess maybe adding a little bit more heat to the scenario, is critical systems. Like ERP systems are quite important in these types of scenarios, and oftentimes when stores open up, it's the reporting systems that tell you what you need for inventory, that kind of thing. And so I haven't really heard too much about other systems, because POS systems integrate into a bunch of these.
Right.
Love to hear you guys explore that a little.
Sure. That's something that we will start going into in Module 2, and I know that the SOC team knows that the ERP systems will become a conversation with our operations and IT, so thank you for that comment. I see one at the, if you can unmute, thank you so much for following the rules. You get a cookie. Person at the back, go ahead. Well done.
My question's to the CFO and the compliance and legal officer. Why haven't you guys contacted your insurance company? You said you have a business interruption policy. So why would your insurer even cover you if you haven't even called them in?
Ask the question like he's a reporter from ODTN News.
I know.
Go ahead.
All right, hopefully I get a cookie for this answer too. So we haven't invoked the cyber incident response plan, so that's why we're still looking at the possibility of calling cyber insurance in, but because cyber hasn't been invoked, that's it. With that being said, I do strongly recommend that the organization gets their technical team to make sure that they're not, as mentioned, running over the forensics of, and we have some technical lead assigned that will essentially be able to guide the organization's technical response. And we should not be, I think too soon, too quickly, organizations don't want to call a cyber event, and that can impact the investigation later on. And so my job as compliance is going to be to reiterate to the team here that while we're not declaring a cyber incident at this moment, we should be acting in a way as if it could be, so that we're protecting the information, we're protecting the organization's reputation moving forward, because while we'll get away from this, we may do this wonderfully and fantastic. At the end of the day, our reputation is going to be the part that's really going to take the hit at the very end. So we need to make sure that we are keeping all of those things in mind, regardless of whether or not. But cyber insurance is on the quick dial once this is declared an incident of cyber.
Thank you. We have 3 minutes very quickly. Thank you for unmuting. If you can keep your question quick and short.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I'm just curious where the communications manager is in this, regardless of whether it's cybersecurity incident or not. It's a public relationship issue, and we should have communications plans for any of these sort of situations, and they should have been called right up front within a very short period of time and not being able to open the doors on time.
Yeah, the communications team was at an event last night, we're getting in touch with them. So, but it's a great point and a very good question. Now, folks, I know there's a lot of chatter online as well. We really appreciate that this is exactly how we want these modules to run. I do have to bring us to a conclusion in about 2 minutes. So very quickly, if my screen can pop up, I need to share this with everyone, and I'll summarize it for you, and I'll also show you another screen. We have a staff member whose son works at one of the stores and says, "Mom, I'm super grateful to work here and all, not trying to be an annoying Nepo baby, but as a CFO, you need to know this." And this, I know we've distributed financial responsibilities above. She's not necessarily the CFO, she's the director of finance who reports into you and says, "Payment systems are down again. It's a shit show in here today." Yeah, I'd get spanked if I said that to my parents, but that's a different story. Wasn't the guy that came in 3 weeks ago supposed to make sure this doesn't happen? And she responds, "Honey, no one was dispatched to come in 3 days or weeks ago. Call me." And I can tell you that at every CyberX Smart, and this is totally not AI generated, there is a lineup of folks who probably have questions for this table, but it's going to get rowdy very, very soon. Alex, I believe you have an update, and then if you can turn it over to me to close. Alex?
All right, well, let's just look at what we do know, the totality. We have some outages, IT outages. Now this, because of the digital transformation project that's been going on for 6 to 12 months, outages and hiccups and weekend fixes have been sort of part of the culture. So, that could actually mean that this just sort of looks like maybe a little bit more painful problem, but sort of par for the course. However, the SOC started sifting through logs and started to identify that there were some software updates done that we started pulling the thread on and noticing, like the MSP that finally we got in touch with said, "We haven't pushed it." Internally, we don't think we've pushed it. And there was a flag that did an override on a checksum. So, by a show of hands to the advisors and audience, do we have enough indicators of compromise to initiate our incident response plan? Hands?
Vancouver's behind
Let's do it.
It's an incident. Board, anything you want to add? We're declaring an incident. Full support. All right, well, I can tell you this, it is 10:30, and I know we're going to begin our next session. We'll probably give it about a 30-minute break. I will tell you this, the CEO has sent a text to all of us saying, at CyberXmart, we don't panic, we pivot. Clearly, that CEO watches a lot of episodes of Friends. Pivot, 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 if you know the reference. With that, please pivot and take a short break. We'll be back in approximately 30 minutes. Thank you so much. See you in Module 2.